Good evening. Welcome to Leicester Fan TV. Tom here again for another away fan show. As we build up to Walsall away in the FA Cup. Now, doing research, obviously, the last time we played Walsall was League One back in February 2009. Now, on that day, how times have changed. The team for that day was David Martin in goal, Kieran Gilbert, Jack Hobbs, Michael Morrison and Joe Mattock, Tom Cleverley, Lloyd Dyer, Andy King and Matt Oakley in the midfield, and Matty Fry and Steve Howard. How times have changed. Bench that day, Bruno Berner, Wayne Brown, Paul Dickoff, Barry Hales was still at the football club as well. Since then, a lot of things have changed. Leicester have gone on to do quite a few bits. Walsall's had a few promotions, a few relegations. But Tom from the One Pod Beyond tonight's join us as we build up to the FA Cup tie for Walsall. Let's get in. Good evening, Tom.
Evening, Tom. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Looking forward to an interesting game. Obviously, our form at the moment isn't that great. Our only win has come against Gillingham in the last round of the FA Cup. And now we've come up against another low league team in the FA Cup. And hopefully we can try and pick some goals at this time round. And instead of a 1-0 shaky win against Gillingham, I think a lot of Leicester fans are hoping we can go to your ground on Saturday and really up the performance levels. But let's get into Walsall. What's happened for Walsall since we last met in 2009, all those years ago?
Oh, crikey, that's a long time ago, isn't it? Sort of a relatively long period of mediocrity in League One. One fantastic season where we were goal difference away from getting into the Championship. Missed out on the last day of the season, and then blew it in the playoffs against a very good Barnsley team when really we should have gone up automatically. And then subsequent to that, just a period of decline, really, year on year, finishing lower down the league, culminating in relegation to League Two. And we've been there for a while now, unfortunately. But things do seem to be picking up under Mike Flynn. A lot of Walsall fans were surprised that we managed to get him. When Matt Taylor was let go with us sort of towards the wrong end of League Two a season and a bit ago. So, tough times, but we do seem to be seeing a bit of light at the tunnel. We've got new owners, American group who are quite interesting. We've just finally got ownership of our own ground after about 32 years. We built it 32 years ago, never owned it. There's a big long saga of how that came to come about. Lots of shenanigans back in the day. But yeah, we finally own our own ground thanks to our new owners. We're under no illusions that, we're still, we're paying out money as a mortgage effectively now. But as anyone who's, dabbled in home ownership knows, it's always best to own your own home rather than pay rent to someone else. So things seem to be looking up in the league. We're doing much better. Last 13 games, we've won 9 out of the last 13, only lost 1, and a really, really good result away at Stockport in the last round, where despite them equalising in the last few minutes, we went on to win it with a 95th minute penalty. So spirits are high at the moment.
Obviously, you currently sit 11th in League One on 37 points, played 24, won 10, drawn 7, lost 7, goal difference of 8. Leicester fans will know your manager. He's the manager that beat us all 4 or 5 years ago in the FA Cup when he was manager at Newport County. I remember that night in the wet and rain, a 2-1 defeat in Newport that night. And he was the man in charge. He was the man who had sort of a cup pedigree, let's put it that way. He liked to get the upsets. He somehow knew how to beat Championship and Premiership teams for fun in those couple of years he was there, or 3 years he was down at Newport. What's he done to you since he's come to you? What's he's changed in your style of football mainly?
I think just the whole spirit around the club, a real will to win, never say die attitude. I think in 3 of our last 5 games, we've come from behind to win. And as you say, Flynn's cup pedigree is astonishing. For a lower league manager, he has never not got to the 3rd round of the FA Cup. Now, our cup pedigree, in the past is really good. Arguably, we invented the giant killing when we beat Arsenal in 1933. Then we got to the semi-final of the League Cup in '83 against Liverpool, But the last 2 decades have been pretty thin stuff, to be honest. For a side with a good cup giant killing pedigree, we've been pretty rubbish for the last couple of decades. But I think one of the big things in Flynn's favour when he came in was his cup pedigree. There are rumours that he's got a bonus clause relating to cup games. So clearly they were, wanted that financial windfall that you can get from a decent cup run. And we seem to be, enjoying the fruits of that at the moment.
Obviously, you boys didn't play at the weekend. I think you had a postponement late on. And then obviously you didn't play again last night when you were supposed to play. So you've missed two games this week due to cold conditions, I think it's down to.
Yeah, and it's annoying because one of our best defenders, Manny Month, who's fantastic, huge colossus of a defender, will be out on Saturday. He should have served a first match of a one-game ban on Saturday. That game was postponed. Then he should have served it on Tuesday. That was game was postponed, so he serves it against Leicester instead, and that's a bit worrying in a way for Walsall fans. We've been playing really well, but Johnson, Danny Johnson, our top scorer with 15 goals this season, has gone back to Mansfield, where we had him on loan from. And, there's a big, long saga going on. Will he come back or won't he before the end of the transfer window? Obviously, he's not going to be back in time for Saturday. And Jamil Matt, who's another really good lower league centre half, who I think scored against Leicester in that game at Newport. He's he's an old favourite of Flynn, who Flynn's brought in from Forest Green, paid money for him, really good signing in the January window. But of course, he's cup tied. So in terms of players, it's probably not our first 11 that's going to be out on Saturday. The interesting thing, of course, is whether it's going to be your first 11.
This is something we were talking about in the group during the week, and we've chatted a few times. I think Phil was talking about what we sort of put our team together during the week, who we'd like to play. Mine was very strong. Mine was, we go there, we do the job, then bring the young lads on. Obviously at Gillingham, we went with a very not depleted team, because when you're playing Vardy and Iheanacho up front, you can't say you're very depleted. But when your back line is Sion, who doesn't play much, Vestergaard, who doesn't play much, and Lewis Brunt, the young lad who's come through the academy, you wouldn't say that's our strongest back line. For me, we go to Walsall on Saturday and we need to start getting some confidence up for playing in a team that's picking itself regularly, in my view, at the moment. We're not picking up wins. We're struggling to break teams down. We don't seem to pass the ball well enough at the moment. So you boys, like I said to the Gillingham fan, you boys have got the opportunity this weekend, because we're low on confidence as a team. The performance against Brighton, yes, a good draw against them, but again, 88th minute, conceding an equaliser wasn't very great. When you're winning 2-1 with that late stage, and the 2 goals conceded, both in my view is avoidable. First one is a good strike, but the second one, a free header in the box, got to be doing. And that's why for me, we should be going to Walsall on Saturday and picking the strongest team possible to try and get some confidence into the lads. And I know it's not great to say that to a low league club, but for someone like Leicester at the moment who are struggling, we need to find results, and they're not coming very quick. Look at it go Saturday. What do you think your team will be on Saturday? Where do you think the manager will go? Because obviously at the moment you're not far off the playoff places. So obviously a priority would, for you boys, definitely would try and get in the playoffs this season. But a cup run for you would be massive due to the amount of money you can turn over if you go into the next round. Because I think a few eyes were shocked that this game wasn't picked for the TV rights due to the fact of your manager had beaten Leicester in the past. And I was quite shocked, a Premiership team versus a Division 2 team in the next round of the Cup. I was very thinking that they'll be on the telly as well, because of what had gone off with their manager before. So to not see it being picked was a shock. So what do you think your manager will do this time round?
I think it will absolutely be our strongest team. As I've just said, unfortunately, due to enforced absences, it won't be our absolutely strongest team. But he has got people to come in off the bench. That's been one of the features of the team this season, is that for the first time in years, we've actually got a bit of strength in depth. So we've got people who can come in and do a job, when they come into the team. I think one of the features of Flynn's reign, I talked about the sort of resilience and the never say die attitude. We've only been beaten by more than 1 goal once all season. So, we don't roll over, we don't give up. As I say, we've started coming from behind to win. We've started scoring late goals. So, you know what you're going to get with the Flynn side. we're direct, but we don't particularly play with a big man up front. But we're not a silky possession based side. We play with wing backs. We try to get forward as much as we can, and we get the ball quickly, get the ball forward quickly. And as you know, is important for any lower league side. I mean, really any side these days. We're a real threat from set pieces. So that's where I see our main goal threat coming from on Saturday.
It's all about your goal threat. Where would you say your Achilles' heels is? Where could the Foxes get at Walsall at the weekend? You know, if there were a weak spot in that team, if Leicester can somehow find it, where would that weak spot be? Would you say the centre halves, or would you say going down, crossing balls into the box? Is there a weak spot at the moment, or do you think Flynn's started to get a confidence? As you said, you know, nine games of beaten. You know, it's a hell of a run. So, is he really got them ticking at the moment?
I mean, occasionally our centre halves can look a bit ponderous. There's three of them. They're all big lads. As I say, the biggest probably Manny Month is out on Saturday, which is an issue. It'll be someone coming in who hasn't played a huge amount of games this season. Whoever he decides, we've got a couple of centre halves that he could choose to play in that back three. But I think if you can get in behind our wing backs, you could cause us problems. That's always got to be a worry when you play that system. But otherwise, I think we've struggled this season to make the ball stick up top. Jamil Matt won't be playing, unfortunately, on Saturday. That's who you would imagine we would be using for the rest of the season in that role. So we're going to have to sort of slightly change the way we play now that Johnson's gone back to Mansfield. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting game. But as I say, you know, we're not going to roll over, I don't think.
And finally, your score for prediction going into this FA Cup. Are you confident? We'll go with you. We'll go with two: your head and your heart. We'll start with the head say. What does your head say going into this fixture?
Head says we're perfectly capable of getting a draw given your current form. So I'll go for 1-1. In terms of heart, I'll say 3-0 Walsall and potentially the end of Brendan Rodgers' reign. It's interesting. My next door neighbour is a Leicester fan, and he said to me the other day, I saw him, he said, "You will never have a better chance of beating us." And he said, "I kind of hope you do, because, you know, he's not happy with Rodgers." And I think that when Flynn beat Leicester last time, it was the end of Claude Puel, wasn't it? I think that may have been the end.
Yeah, the week later. So he was in charge for the Palace game, and after we lost to Palace, he got sacked, and that was the week after week after the Newport game. I mean, it's a weird feeling around the stadium now, if I'm honest. There's mixed emotions. You know, Saturday, I think if we had won, the pressure would have lifted a little bit. I was at Forest the week before when the performance was diabolical, and Rodgers should have gone after that game, in my view. And I'm very much Rodgers needs to go now to try and save our season. We've done the same as we did against Palace at the beginning after that run. Well, poor run. We drew 0-0 with Palace, and it was like everyone stood there and was like, we can't really boo because we haven't lost. And I think it was very much the same at the weekend. A lot of fans wanted to vent their frustration. I think a lot of fans would rather, instead of we got a point, we just lost the game. So it gave everyone the opportunity to vent that frustration towards the board and Rodgers. But could we draw? They couldn't really do that. Again, this weekend, I was at Stockport in the first round of the League Cup. We drew 0-0, went to penalties. We won on penalties, and the players came to their way end, and they got there was a lot of angry faces. There was a lot of swearing towards them. And there's a lot of players shaking their heads. It was like, oh, well, we've just beaten someone, Pen, but you're still not happy? Well, no, because you can't beat a League Two team with a team that had, was it at the time, 9 international players in it. You know, that was the frustration. And Rodgers got the vent of that at that game of getting sacked in the morning and we want Rodgers out. You know, he's still here. It'll be interesting to see Saturday what the fans are like, because obviously it's a different set of fans at the away games, you know, compared to the home fans at the home games. You get the hardcore away fans who are not happy up Forest the other week. Obviously, in the next week, we've got you boys away. We then play Villa away, and we got Man United and Tottenham. You know, some tough fixtures. So he's got to get a win at the weekend, and I'd say it's got to be a comfortable victory for the Leicester fans to start feeling that we're turning a corner. Because obviously, the weekend again, the poor results, and the fans are still not going to forgive him until he really turns a corner and pulls us away from the relegation zone. Tom, thank you so much for joining us tonight, mate. Much appreciated for your time. Obviously, you'll be at the ground on Saturday. If we can catch up before the game, that'd be brilliant. We can catch up after the game, even better, depending on the result, of course. But good luck for the weekend, mate. And like I say, if there's any time to go and beat Leicester in the Cup, it is probably now.
Cheers, mate. Good to speak to you.
You too. Thanks, bud. And there we go. Let's get rid of that. Tom joined to talk about Walsall. As always, thank you for watching tonight. Much appreciated. And your comments as always. Remember, we're here Saturday morning. The lads will be building up to the game with a watch along. And then, as always, join Jamie on Sunday morning for the famous Foxes Aftermath show. Well, could be a lively one depending on the results of the weekend. But for now, keep it all Leicester Fan TV.